All right. Looks like the camera's working. Looks like we're going. Looks like we're live. So we'll do just like normal. We'll get the disclaimers out of the way, then we'll jump into it. So this is a weekly live broadcast, pretty much every Thursday evening, 7 o'clock Central. This is where I am, unless something comes up. If I can't make it, I always post in the comment or the community section. So if you have your notifications turned on, you should be notified of that. If I can't make it on a Thursday evening for some reason, I always post in there and let you guys know. But most of the time I'm here, 7 o'clock Central. Come in here, ask your questions, whatever it is you want to talk about, we'll be willing to talk about. I don't have a topic planned out. I always just let the chat kind of drive the way the broadcast is going to go, and I do my best to respond to every chat that comes in during the live broadcast itself. No topics taboo, really. Whatever you guys want to talk about, I'm open to talk about, whether it be controversial topics like religion, politics, any of those kinds of things. The only things I ask is be polite, be family friendly, don't start cussing anybody, don't call anybody names, don't be hateful with anybody. We can have good discussions. Doesn't matter if we have differences of opinions, we can still be friends and still be friendly about it. So with that being said, let's jump into it. We've got a couple of people here already. Looks like 11 people here now. We've got just a couple of comments coming in, or a couple of chats coming in through so far. We got Buck Reynolds here from Claremore, Oklahoma. Good to see you. And Andy Rabbit said, just made it home from the dentist and a trip over to Baker Creek. Nice. Baker Creek's, I like Baker Creek seeds. That's one of the places when I order seeds, I usually get them from Baker Creek Seeds. Cindy Rapp says, hello, everyone. Hello to you. Thanks for joining. Dawn's here, says, good evening from South Central Illinois. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us tonight. Appreciate that. Dawn says, that's a great day after the yucky dentist. Well, it depends on what you're going to the dentist for. Usually my dentist trips aren't that bad. I say that. I mean, I've had a lot of dental work done. I don't have very good teeth. But, I don't know. I usually deal with it. I had to go into I go to the periodontist and the dentist because like I said, don't have very good teeth. I'm trying to save what I've got left as long as I can. So I had to go to the periodontist. Oh, it's been a month ago, I guess. And had to have some kind of like deep root scaling stuff done, and they numb you up for that. They give you shots and numb you. And they were talking to me about that beforehand, saying, okay, so we're going to give you a couple shots. We'll numb you up. Said we can give you like a pill or some or gas or something like that. And I'm like, well, what for? And she said, well, just some people like that just to kind of help with the anxiety, the anxiousness. And I was like, no, I think I'll be okay. And they're like, are you sure? And I'm like, well, what's the deal? And they're like, just for the shots are kind of, I'm like, I've had shots before. I think I'll be okay. And she's like, okay, some people aren't. And I said, well, you just tell them quit being a wuss and deal with it. She kind of laughed and said she couldn't tell people that. But yeah, I got to tell you, it did, the worst one's the one right up the top here, right there, right up in the roof of your mouth. Boy, it made my eyes water. It didn't, it only hurts for a second. It's not that bad, but it did make my eyes water. I told them I was going to tell my wife that they made me cry. Anyhow, it wasn't that bad all in all. David Lister says hot. Yeah, I basically complained about the heat. It really hasn't seemed that bad to me, honestly. When we're in the, 89, 90 degrees most days, it's really not that bad. And we haven't broke 100 yet, I don't think. And, it could be worse. Verna's here. I don't see Verna. Somebody said, hey, Verna, but I don't see her. Is she talking and I'm not seeing it? I've got all the chats turned on as far as I know. Anyway, Don says, my dentist trips aren't bad, pretty drive, but it costs too much. I'd rather get seeds or plants from Baker Creek. Yeah, well, I agree with that. The cost is always up there. Not good. Andy from Southwest Michigan says, much cooler here today, 70 degrees and cloudy. That doesn't sound bad, does it? Andy Rabbit says that my granddaughter says hi. We'll tell her I said hello. Dawn says, I have all jumbo brown quail I've been hatching. Now I have some Egyptian eggs coming. Well, good luck with that hatch. Hopefully that goes well. I've had Egyptians before, but right now I just focus solely on jumbo browns. To me, that's the best bang for your buck when it comes to meat and egg production. But I'm not saying you shouldn't have those other kinds. If you want to get into the other colors and all those other things, then go for it. Why not? Don says, I hated those roof of the mouth shots. Yeah, they're not fun. It kind of hurts. But here's the thing. They can give you a pill or some kind of gas, like nitrous probably, to help with that, while you're getting those shots. But then you have to have a driver, and it takes a while to recover from it. I didn't want to deal with all that, so I'll just deal with the, that much pain that it's that long and it's over. It's just a second or two. Don says I don't see her either. Don't see Verna. I don't either. Oh, there's Andy Rabbit clarifying. Said, "Oh, that wasn't Verna I saw. I put my glasses on." Yeah, that happens to me sometimes too. Terry Dutton's here says, "When can I put my buck back with the doe? She just had some little ones." I mean, technically, you could do it right now if you wanted to. I usually give them at least a couple of weeks. I like to go, I figure if you're going to wean the current babies off at 6 weeks, and I let her go at least 2 weeks, well, then that gives her like 2 weeks after the babies are weaned before she has another litter. So I like to give her a little bit of a break. So I would wait until they're at least 2 weeks old, plan on weaning them off right at 6 weeks old, and that's how I would do it. But you can do it however you want to, really. Let's see. Baseball Trivia says, I thought a year-old blueberry bush. Oh, I bought a year-old blueberry bush, and it was producing a few berries, but when will it start to get a full harvest? I brought a year-old bush. I honestly don't know. I'm not an expert on blueberry bushes. My guess would be it takes them at least a year. So if you bought it and got it planted, it produced a few. Probably next year it's going to be a much better crop, assuming that you have the conditions right and all that kind of stuff. We did have a blueberry bush once, but it didn't survive. I know they like pretty acidic soil. Not an expert on blueberries, honestly, so I couldn't tell you. But that's my assumption on it. Desert Homestead says, oh, wait. Dawn first. Dawn says, I could have done this if I didn't get 2 new knees and start walking, so I'm going on down to Nashville to pick up the grandsons for a week. Oh, I could not have done this if I didn't get 2 new knees. Oh, awesome. Well, I'm glad to hear that you're doing better. I remember you having to go through all that, and I'm glad to hear that you're over that. Sounds like things are going pretty well, so have some fun, have a good time with your grandsons. Desert Homestead says, hey, Chris, I've seen you like to add new birds to your breeders when 2 weeks old. How do you sex them that young? I have jumbo wild and can't tell until feathers come in. Yeah, honestly, when they're 2 weeks old, it's a little bit tough, but usually by the time they're like 4 weeks old, you can tell which ones are roosters, which ones are hens. I don't bother sexing them at that point. I just throw them in there, let them raise up, and then I, usually before they get completely full grown, I can go ahead and pick out, the extra roosters and stuff like that. Cindy Rapp says, it was 42 this morning. Perfect weather for coffee on the deck. Yeah, I bet. It was not 42 here. I think it was probably in the mid to high 70s, maybe. Dawn says, the Egyptians I had were jumbos and laid eggs just the same. Yeah, and the only reason, it's not a size issue with the Egyptians. That I just like the jumbo brown. I just think that they have the best, production as far as meat goes, the size, and they're feather sexable. Easy for me to tell the roosters from the hens. That's why I like them. Andy Rabbit says, I picked up a pink lemonade blueberry plant left over for really cheap. Nice. Tony from Toronto's here. Good to see you, Tony. Let's see. Andy Rabbit says, Don, I hope I will like the pink lemonade blueberry. Haven't tried them yet. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not real familiar with that. I like blueberries okay. I don't know. They're not that great to me, but they're decent. I kind of like them. Eric Welland says, hey, everybody. Hello to you. Good to see you. Let's see. The best of my American breast homestead had a message, but it got retracted, so we'll go on. Andy Rabbit says, I'll be having some hatch in a week and a half. Awesome. Is that Egyptians or what, or just quail in general? It says, I'm excited to have these guys hatch. Well, good luck. Hopefully you have a good hatch. And Don wants to know that when you try them, assuming the blueberries, let me know what they taste like. How do you describe a taste to somebody, really? It's kind of hard to do, isn't it? Hey, there's Joy from Western Oregon. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us tonight. Appreciate that. And The chat is slowing down. So what else has been going on? David Lister says, final count of 30 new partridge chicks for the year. Where can I get blank permission slips for freezer camp? The first ones will be going there in early August. I just make your own. It'll be fine. Nobody checks them anyway, right? So congratulations on that. Hopefully that all they continue to do well. Andy Rabbit says the breeder HP sent me, I think it is 9 different types of quail. HP. Who's HP? HP. I should probably know that. I don't know right offhand who that is. But anyway, that's exciting. Different types. Something cool. Don says, well, I would think the lemonade blueberry could be a weak, watered down, more acid taste. That's probably a pretty good assumption. I really don't know. Let me look that up real quick. It's lemonade. Interesting. And then there's a bunch of recipes for making blueberry lemonade. So interesting. I'm not familiar with those. Let's see. Desert Homestead says, I've been noticing my hens making a whistling noise. Sounds like a bottle rocket. Is that their egg laying song? I mean, it might be. I've never noticed my birds. I've noticed them making that noise before. I don't know if it's when they're laying an egg or not. I never really catch them in the process of laying an egg, so I couldn't really tell you. But I did have some out there kind of making that whistling kind of sound when I was feeding the other day, and it seemed to be more like they were like a little stressed out because I was out there. These were the new birds that I had just moved to the new hutch, and I think they were a little stressed about me being out there, and it was early morning. So I don't know. Maybe they were laying an egg, but they were, well, there was no egg in the cage at that part where they were at, so I don't know. Could be. I mean, maybe they use it for different things too. Who knows? Andy Rabbit says mostly sparkly kinds of quail, huh? Well, good luck with your sparkly quail. Katrina says, I just processed 11 birds, was able to fit them in 4-pint jars and pressure can them. Tried the meat last night. Really good. Well, awesome. Okay, and Gopher Ridge Farm is HP. Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. I should have known that, but I didn't. So, Katrina, yeah, that's, fitting them in there and pressure canning them turned out really good. I'm glad to hear that. I've never actually canned quail before, or any meat that I think of now. I always have a weird thing about canned meat. It just seems like a weird thing to me. It shouldn't be. I need to get over it and just do it, but I've never done it. I may try it sometime. Oh yeah, it's Gopher Ridge Quail. Joy Guthrie's correcting you. Gopher Ridge Quail, not Gopher Ridge Farm, says Andy Rabbit. Okay, that's okay. Okay, the best of my American breast homestead says, just processed my first quail. It was good. However, I can process my American breasts in the same amount of time or same amount of weeks and have more meat. I wish quail had more meat. I do love raising them. Yeah, they're not very big. They're small for sure. And yeah, our meat chickens grow out about the same rate. So that's good. The good thing about quail, and of course, I'm guessing that you probably live in a place where it doesn't really matter so much. But the good thing about quail is that you can have roosters and incubate and produce your own eggs, or hens or chicks. There we go. Good grief. Whereas with most meat birds, you can't do that. Either like Cornish cross, for example, you can't breed those and get viable eggs and all that out of them. American breasts, I think, are a little bit different than that. But even in a lot of places where you can have chickens, you can't have roosters. So that's the big benefit to quail for a lot of us. Don says HP Murray, I think, is Gopher Ridge Quail. I've ordered from him a couple of times. Nice big jumbos. Well, nice. Good to hear that. Old Colony Garden says, will the black soldier fly larvae eat the leaves from a cauliflower plant? I don't know, probably. I don't see why they wouldn't. I mean, they eat just about everything. I don't see why they wouldn't eat those. Throw them in there and find out. Andy Rabbit says, I've heard HP quail are huge. Interesting. I may have to check that out. Let me make a note. check them out later and see. Eric Wellen says, my quail got stressed out last weekend because their water hose got separated from the water cups. They quit laying eggs until today. Glad to get the egg production back. Glad you figured that out too. That's always a little bit of a weird thing whenever you get something like that happen you don't even know, and you could have lost some birds. So glad you got that figured out. But yeah, that stresses them out. They'll quit laying for a little while, but I'm glad you're back in production now. Don says, mine are now Judd's quail, and they're slightly outweighed HPs when I banded them. Interesting. I'm not familiar with them either. Cindy Rapp says, my last batch of quail is hatching, 14 eggs, hoping for 8 to 10 in the hatch. Well, good luck with your hatch. Hopefully it goes well. Andy says, love the shirt. Oh, thanks. Yeah, this is one I don't wear all the time, but one of my favorites too. And Don says they're both true jumbos. Well, good to hear that. Zoar says, I have a bird that is denting, cracking, and denting only. Can't catch one doing it. What? I'm not sure what you're trying to tell me there. Are they doing that to the eggs? They're bending and cracking bending the eggs, or denting the eggs, I should say, and cracking the eggs. I get those every once in a while. I don't know if it's one bird doing it or multiple birds. It's hard to say. David says, my wife pressure cooked 2 rabbits last week. We had some for dinner. Tasty. Yeah, pressure cooking is one of my favorite ways to do rabbit. I think it's a great way to do it. It does tenderize it quite a bit. Rabbit can be a little bit on the dry side because it's very lean. Quail's the same way. And pressure cooking does kind of seem to alleviate a lot of that. Best of my American Breast Homestead says, I live in southeast Missouri. Well, yeah, across the state from me probably, huh? Andy Rabbit says, my quail got attacked by coons and they stopped laying. That was a while back, wasn't it? Are they not over that yet? By the way, I saw the funniest video on Facebook, I think it was. This lady was talking about how to keep raccoons out of your chickens, and she was the first time she says cayenne pepper, and while she's talking about it, she holds up this pistol. She's like, cayenne pepper, the raccoons will have that. She's got this pistol in her hand. She's like, the birds they don't taste the cayenne, the raccoons can, and drives them away or whatever. And another option, and it cuts to another scene where she's like, another option is, I think it was vinegar. She's like, I don't know what it is about vinegar, and she's got a rifle in her hand. And then she talks about something else, and it's like another rifle. As she's talking about that. So basically, she's saying there's not really a good way to get rid of them. You just got to, use that to take care of them. Let's see, where was I? I lost where I was at. Joy Guthrie, I think it is, says, Gopher Ridge quail have great temperaments. Well, that's good to know. Don says, but HP has all the pretty jumbos. Well, there you go. If you're into pretty birds, that may be the place to go, huh? And Andy Rabbit says, so many new breeders this year, it seems like. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them I haven't even heard of. I didn't even know. Andy Rabbit says, I dislike going to the dentist. Yeah, I can't say it's my favorite thing. I don't have very good teeth, like I said, so I go to the periodontist and to the dentist. I'm at one or the other every 3 months. So it's just a cleaning that I go through most of the time, so it's not that big of a deal, but it's not fun. I don't enjoy it necessarily, but it's not that big of a deal. And if I don't do it, then I got to go in, at some point for some kind of major, teeth pulling or something like that. So got to keep up on it. Okay, Zoar says, I have a Caturnix denting the egg. So are these, you said cracking and denting, right? Okay, that's what I kind of wondered if that's what you were talking about. So are these younger birds, older birds? I mean, it's hard to say for sure. And it may not be just one bird. It may be that one bird just lays, maybe that, who knows if it's the same bird every time or not. But it may be that, the birds are just running around and they just happen to crack or dent the eggs. I've seen that happen with a couple of my eggs sometimes. And usually it seems like it's the younger birds that happens to. And as they start getting older, like, with younger birds, you get all kinds of weird eggs with no shell on them, double yolk eggs, and tiny little eggs with no yolk in them, and all kinds of weird things. It seems to me like it's kind of just part of that process. As they get a little bit older, they start to lay more well-developed eggs, and then it kind of usually alleviates itself. Andy Rabbit says it feels like I've been punched in the mouth right now. Yeah, not a good feeling at all. I only have one hen. Oh, Andy Rabbit says I only have one hen left. I don't have any lights on them after the coon. Well, they shouldn't need lights right now. It's summertime. The daytime should be plenty long enough, unless you've got them like in a shed or something like that where they're not exposed to daylight. But they should be laying, or she, the one hen, should be laying again right now, I would think. Zora says, I have 9 Freedom Rangers to process. How long will it take solo doing it basically like you did in your video? I mean, it depends. I don't know if you've done it before. There may be a little bit of a learning curve there. I can usually take a chicken from, dispatch, pulling the feathers. I can pluck them in about 5 minutes without a plucker. It takes me about 5 minutes to go ahead and hand pluck them. That's with a good scald. Now that's a Cornish cross. Freedom Rangers may have a little bit thicker feathers. It may take a little bit longer. I would say 9. You're probably looking at an hour and a half. Something like that. That may be a little bit on the long side. I'm not really sure. I'm trying to think about how long it takes me, and I'm thinking it's probably about, I'd say 10 minutes or so. I usually have my wife. She does part of it, so I'm trying to pack all that into that. Probably 10 to 15 minutes per bird, something like that. So with 9 of them, that's it's about an hour and a half-ish, roughly, but I don't know. Hey, there's Verna. She's here. She says, "Hey, Chris, 16th like." Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Andy Rabbit says, I don't have good teeth either, I guess, but I only have 4 fillings left to do. Well, that's good. I have one small cavity, like right there on that tooth, right on the tip of it. It said it was a weird spot. It's not bad right now, but I'll probably eventually have to get that filled. Let's see. Dawn says, I just finished up with the dentist. I'm good for 6 months. Get rid of that. Okay. So, yeah, well, that's good. Like I said, I have to go every 3 months to one or the other, so could be worse. Dawn says, I hate when you hold your mouth so far open for so long that the jaw hurts all day. Yeah, that's unpleasant for sure. And a lot of times you get shots, they put them right down in the jawbone, and that'll ache for the rest of the day too. Andy Rabbit says, I moved them on the back porch. It's not well lit. Well, that could be, that may be why they're not laying then, or she's not laying, I guess. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. Let's see. Who's this? A jack of all trades. Says, I just ordered eggs. Hold on. Things started skipping around on me. There we go. I just ordered eggs from Southern Biophilic, Philiac, I think it is. I was disappointed with the size of my birds from the last place. Butchered everything last week. Largest bird was 8.5 ounces at 13 weeks. Yeah, it's a little bit on the small side, isn't it? Well, hopefully you have better luck with these. Let's see. Dawn says, I got ripped like that with the live birds, supposedly jumbos. I'm replacing them with all the ones that hatched. They're true jumbos. Yeah, I mean, that happens from time to time. Luckily, it's pretty easy to just replace your birds and build up from there and get some good ones. Zora says, have you ever tried bass quail feeders? Seems to be great price and would be nice to have feeders to fill from the outside of the pen. I use something close to what you have. No, I haven't. Is that like from Bass Equipment? Yeah, from Bass Equipment, huh? No, I haven't tried those, but that company is actually located, it's less than an hour from me. It's in Monette, Missouri. And, I haven't been by there to see them, but I didn't realize they started doing quail feeders now. It looks like a rabbit feeder, just with a wire over the front of it. If it's the same one I'm looking at, I mean, that's all it is. There's a wire over the part where they feed out of to keep them from getting in there and scratching it all out. I don't see why it wouldn't work. Andy Rabbit says, but with just one hen, it's okay. There is, I think, 5 roosters with her. Wow, that's a lot of roosters for one hen. But if you got the lights down, they're not breeding probably, and probably not beating her up too bad. Eric says, storms have been rolling through our area, and the hose came undone. It even knocked out my internet just a few minutes ago. Oh my goodness. Well, hopefully it's not too bad. We had storms come through here as well this morning. They really weren't that bad here. North of us, like Kansas City, I guess, got hit pretty hard and had a lot of flooding. And I think even some places in Kansas, just a little bit north, had quite a bit of rain. We got a little bit of rain, but it wasn't that bad. David Lister says, Cornish cross versus American breast, which do you prefer and why? Well, I have not grown out American breasts. I know that they are a dual purpose, like egg or meat, I believe. So I guess there are some benefits to those. Personally, the only ones I've raised are Cornish cross. And from everything I've seen, it seems like the best bang for your buck for just meat production. And I can't have roosters here. I'm not raising chickens for eggs. I've got the quail producing plenty of eggs. So to me, the Cornish cross just seems to be the way to go. But I don't have experience with the other ones. Maybe we can get somebody that who's that American breasts, the homestead. I can't remember the whole name. the best American breast homestead or whatever it is. Maybe you can respond and let us know what you think if you've raised Cornish cross and what the comparison is. Don says, I don't know if I want to waste the time processing those little birds for the freezer. 8.7 at 10 weeks. What a joke. Yeah. I guess they're still worth it, but yeah, there's not much to them. That's for sure. 340 Quail Farms here says, hey, everyone, made it. We're glad to see you. Thanks for joining. Katrina says, I'm using this year as learning, going to have all the birds processed by November and starting fresh in March with a single breed. Well, there's nothing wrong with doing that. That works just great. Life Done Cheap with Lee says, hey, Chris, I'm late, but I'm here. Well, you know the deal. We don't keep attendance here, so thanks for joining. Either way, we appreciate it. How late are you? Oh, just almost halfway through. We're not even quite there yet, so you're not that late. Let's see. Andy Rabbit says, Don, I have never butchered a jumbo size yet. They are still good eating. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with the smaller quail. They're just smaller. Scott says, have you ever tried deep fried quail? I have never tried to deep fry a quail. I thought about that the other day, but honestly, I think they're too lean. I don't know how well they would do fried. I may be wrong on that. Maybe somebody else has tried it. Deep fried everything sounds great, right? Don says, I thought I was going to do a single, okay, there we go. I thought I was going to do a single breed. Second time delaying my eggs today, so I told him to toss in some Egyptians or surprise me. Feather sexable jumbos only. Well, nothing wrong with that. Andy Rabbit says, I got another fig tree from Baker Creek too. They're not shipping live plants anymore for the summer, so I was hoping they had some in store, and I got lucky, and they did. Well, nice. I didn't know. Can you grow figs in Southwest Missouri? Do they? I like figs. Our winters aren't too harsh for them, and I don't know if it'd be worth it. Honestly, I've got a pawpaw tree and a peach tree. I've got 2 plum trees as well, but they haven't really started producing. But we don't get any fruit off any of them. The squirrels get it all of it, and it's a never-ending battle to try to keep them down. I just kind of gave up. The Desert Homestead says, Living Traditions has some good comparison vids on breast versus Cornish chicken. One is better for meat. The other is sustainable with roosters. I remember seeing that, and it seems like that's what they said. The Cornish cross, if you're just looking for meat and that's it, they're a better bang for your buck for meat. But the American breasts are more sustainable. If you have roosters, you can hatch your own and you can raise them up that way. They're kind of a dual purpose. So it just kind of depends on your situation as to which one would be better. Andy Rabbit says some figs can be grown here. So Verna says, yes, Chris, you can grow them in Chicago. They have one called Chicago Hardy. Interesting. I may have to look into getting some figs at one time. Oh, we did plant a new fruit tree this year. It's going to be a while before it's ready, but we planted a persimmon. We got a persimmon tree. Actually planted at the end of last year, but it's still going. So Let's see. Scott says, had them for supper. They were really good. Battered them just like chicken. And deep fried them, huh? The quail. You breaded them like you would fried chicken, deep fried them, and they turned out pretty good, huh? Interesting. I'm going to have to try that. Rabbit Homesteading says, I have 3 Chicago hardy figs. I'm trying 2 in the ground and 1 potted in Southwest Michigan. I'm going to have to try it. Andy says, I got the Beers Black today. They said it can withhold the winter with some mulch. Well, I'll be curious to see how it does. David Lister says, so Cornish cross for the win here at the McAllister Quail Trail. Yeah, probably. I mean, if you don't want to have roosters and hatch out eggs from hens and, reproduce and all that kind of stuff, then yeah, if you just want meat, Cornish cross are the way to go. They're not that expensive either. We found a good deal on them. Well, we didn't. Was it last year? I think it was last year. Anyway, we found a good deal on them, and I think we only had, like, by the time we processed them with feed and all, like $5 per bird maybe in them. Desert Homestead says, I can get 3 harvests of figs every year in Zone 9B if the wild birds let me. LOL. Yeah, my problem is the squirrels. Andy Rabbit says, I'm planning on taking a cutting and starting them over the winter just in case. That's probably not a bad idea. A little rooting hormone on them and stick them in some dirt and see if you can get them to root out and get you some backups. We have a pawpaw tree, but it sends off runners from the roots that sprout up. So there's like 3 or 4 more that have sprouted up from there that are starting to grow. We don't get a lot of pawpaw. Pawpaw are not self-fertile. They require a pollinator tree, like another pawpaw tree, and it doesn't get super fertilized. I'm kind of surprised it gets fertilized at all. I don't know where the closest pawpaw tree besides the one in my backyard is, so I don't know how it gets fertilized at all. So we don't get a ton of pawpaw on there. Usually just a couple of them, maybe 4 or 5 total per year. But the squirrels come and get them all. We never get any. I think we got like one little one last year, just part of one. A jack of all trades says, growing up in South Mississippi, I just ate my first quail this week that wasn't fried. Interesting. Never even thought about frying them. Andy Rabbit says, I don't want to lose them over the winter. Yeah, I don't blame you at all. That's probably a good idea. Go ahead and get some starts. Verna says, if you don't have rooting hormone, you can always dip in honey instead. I've heard that works, but I've actually never tried that. Don says, I didn't know that about pawpaw trees. If they weren't self-fertile, they required another tree to pollinate them. Yeah, and again, I don't know how it's getting pollinated. It gets pollinated every year, but not super good. So I don't know. Most of the time, those pawpaw trees are native to the area, but they usually grow around creek banks and stuff like that. And we don't have the river's several miles away. So I don't know where they are that they would come over here and pollinate my trees too. Let's see. Doina says, can't you use cayenne or vinegar against the squirrels? Maybe to a point, but the problem is you got to go out there every time it rains. It's going to wash that off, and you got to go do it all over again. And it's raining every other day or so here, so I just don't know how well that's going to actually work. I did try a pepper spray. I had a problem with squirrels on tomato plants at one time. It seems like every once in a while they figure out that tomatoes are good to eat and they'll go after them. And then they, once you get rid of those squirrels, it's like for several years I'm good and I don't have any problems with them getting to my tomatoes. And then they figure it out again, and then I have problems with them getting my tomatoes. And I tried pepper spray one time, and it did a decent job. They didn't take the tomatoes, but what they did is they went and took a little bitty bite out of each one of them, and like they were testing them to see which ones didn't have the pepper spray on. So the tomatoes were still there. They just had little squirrel bite marks in them, and still wasn't good. So I just cleaned them out, and then I didn't have any problems with squirrels for a little while on tomato plants. They still come back. I clean out squirrels. I don't have any for a day, and then the next day there's 3 more that move in. So it's like never ending. Andy Rabbit says, I planted a pawpaw once, but I moved, so I never got fruit off of it. Yeah, well, the next time you're around, if you want another one, I don't know if you're ever going to be in this area again anytime, but if you are, holler at me and you can come and take one of the ones that is popping up back there. I haven't been mowing them down. I've been leaving them go for now. Shane Hesterly says, hello, Chris and viewers. Hello to you too. Thanks for joining us. Trying to watch while mowing. That could be a little tricky. I can't imagine trying to watch something while mowing. And keep getting an error message every few seconds. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Zohar says, I have 230 jumbos in homemade incubator. Hope I don't get over 25% hatch. Yeah, that's I mean, you're probably going to get over a 25% hatch rate. You better figure that out, huh? Let's see. Big Ross says, oh, if you have a weeping willow, sorry, that makes more sense. That's what they used to make rooting hormone originally. Yeah, I've heard that before too. I don't have a weeping willow. I like weeping willow trees, but they get huge. They need a very dedicated area to grow in. Verna says, did you know that pawpaws are the largest native tree fruit in the U.S.? I've heard that actually. And they're very strange. They're very different than like anything else that grows around. They almost look tropical. Andy Rabbit says aloe will also work for rooting too. Rooting dust is cheap enough though. Yeah, I think I've heard that about aloe as well. Let's see. The best of my American breast homestead says, I always process American breasts, 2 roosters that was a 14-month-old. The skin was very thick, but the meat was very tender. Thought it would be tough. The meat was also very dark and juicy. That doesn't sound bad. 14 months old, huh? That's a little old. The Desert Homestead says, my dad has fig trees in Cleveland. Every fall he prunes the tree, digs a trench, folds the whole tree on its side in the ditch, and buries it for the winter, digs it up in the spring, and stands it up. Crazy. That does sound crazy. I can't imagine trying to do that with the tree, but I guess it's working. David Lister says, we had a large blackberry tree when we lived in Iowa. Our Cocker Spaniels would eat all of them that they could reach. A blackberry tree? I've never heard blackberry growing on a tree. Are you sure it was a blackberry tree? I've never heard of that before. Blackberry, I mean, I get blackberries that grow around here. They grow wild, but it's a like a thorny bush kind of thing, like brambles, but not a tree. Andy Rabbit says, Desert Homestead, I haven't heard about the winter ditch. Oh, I have heard about the winter ditch too. I might try it sometime. I've never heard of that before. That's a new one. Big Ross says, okay, so I bought a pack of quail eggs from the Asian store near me. It was worth trying to hatch, or don't bother because they are refrigerated. I've seen some people actually hatch eggs out that they bought from from a grocery store or something. If you don't have anything else going on, go ahead and try it. But if you have if you've only got like one incubator and you really need the hatch rates, I would probably opt for a better, option than that. But why not try it? See, you only got 18 days. You'll know. Actually, if you candle them, you got 10 days roughly, and you can candle them and find out. Andy Rabbit says, when I was a kid, we had an apple tree, and if the apple hit the ground, the dog would fight us. Yeah, we had a peach or a pear tree in our backyard, and the only thing I can remember, I think it died off, it fell over, got cut down. I don't remember what happened, but it was gone before I got too terribly old. But I do remember it when I was a young kid, and all the pears would fall off the tree, and there were just wasps everywhere. They would go after those pears as they were fermenting on the ground. Zora says, when I butcher jumbos, I separate legs from breast, put legs in a baggie with sweet hot barbecue sauce, and a couple of days later, I air fry for 9 minutes. Great mini hot wings. Yeah, that doesn't sound bad. David Lister says, blackberry bush. Okay, that makes more sense, I guess. I was wondering, is there a blackberry tree I'm not familiar with? Does it still have thorns? That doesn't sound too bad. Where we at here? Doina says, to the desert homestead, the Soviets were doing the same with orange trees in Crimea, burying in the fall and digging them up in the spring. Interesting. Andy Rabbit says, I love a fresh picked pear. I don't mind pears. They're okay. I mean, I'm not a big fruit eater in general. So like I like pears. Okay. I like apples. Okay. I like bananas. I do not like citrus fruits like oranges. Grapefruit, can't do that. But I eat one and I'm like, oh, that wasn't bad. And then I just don't want another one for a long time. So it's really not that big deal to me. Andy Rabbit's, Verna says to Andy Rabbit, at first I read that as I love a fresh pickled pear. Yeah, I kind of thought that's what it was at first too for some reason, but then I reread it. Pickled pear, that seems weird, but I reread it and read it the correct way. So Andy Rabbit says, I love fruit. My wife likes it quite a bit. She eats banana with peanut butter every morning. I don't know. I just never eat a whole bunch of fruit. There are some things I like I like blackberries quite a bit. I like blackberry cobbler, but one in the summer, that's about all I want for the rest of the summer. Doina thought it was pickled as well. Yeah, I don't know why. I read it that way too at first. Then like I said, reread it, read it the right way, and got it right. We got 20 minutes left. We're still going. We got plenty of time. I'm trying to think if there's any other things that happened this week that I could tell you about, but nothing too terribly exciting. It's crazy. My feed and water. I had all those birds growing out, processed all of them, everything, but I narrowed down to just 15 hens and 3 roosters, and it's just all of a sudden like we're not going through nearly as much water. I don't have to carry as much water out there. The feed bill has gone way down. It's just kind of a little bit crazy. I mean, you always know that's going to happen, but it's still just kind of a shock. Doina says, how are your rabbits? They're doing fine. Growing out, like I said, a little slow. I think I talked about it last week. I don't know if you were here or not. Growing out a little slow, but they're doing pretty good. All in all, no complaints. They're doing well. Andy Rabbit says, that's why I'm planting cherry and figs and other fruit plants this year. Well, I don't blame you. I've got some fruit trees going. I've got plum trees, and I like plum jelly quite a bit. So that's my plan with those, is try to make some plum jelly. But they haven't really started producing yet. I found 2 plums on the ground green this year. I think they, just from one of the trees. But that was it. So I'm hoping next year will be the year we'll start producing. Aquatic News Network says, howdy, Earthlings. Howdy to you too. Old Colony Garden says, the wife and I picked 19 dozen pickled 19 dozen quail eggs last week. Time for a peeler, electric or manual, LOL. Yeah, the egg peeler is great. And I've just got a manual one, but it does fantastic. But 19 dozen, huh? That's a lot. I don't like pickled eggs. I haven't found a pickled egg recipe that I like yet. I've tried them a few different ways and just don't like them. Andy Rabbit says, well, the fact that the big old oak tree is gone, I'm planting fruit trees I like for shade. There you go. Your best bet on fruit trees, honestly, though, is to keep them pruned to where they grow low to the ground so you can pick them without a ladder. So they wouldn't really provide, most fruit trees don't grow that tall anyway, so they may not provide a bunch of shade, but you get fruit out of them. And if you like fruit, there you go. Just reading some comments. You guys are talking to each other. Oh, pardon me. Oh, still trying to catch some sleep. The dog got me up. I say the dog, he's right here behind me. You can't see him. Well, maybe you can. He's right there. He woke me up at 3:30 night before last. I had to go out, and so I took him outside. And he was just sure there was something out there. I mean, he did his business. He had to go to the bathroom, did all that, but he just kind of wanted to patrol the yard and sniffing all over the place. Was just sure there was something out there. I finally got him to come back in, but by the time I did, it was close to 4 o'clock. And I'm usually up by about 4:30 in the morning anyway. And I just thought, well, if I go back to bed, it's going to be hard to get up. So I just stayed up, and now I'm trying to catch up on the sleep. But slept pretty good last night, so it's not. As long as I sleep pretty good tonight, it'll be okay. Andy Rabbit says, right, and I can sit under them for shade. I do like how you do your fruit trees. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, you can sit under them for shade for sure. Okay, Verna, have a good evening. She says, blessings all. I got chores to do. No problem. Don says, okay, yawn, Chris. Make me tired. I've been doing too much work getting ready to go to Nashville and kid-proofing the house the best I can. I never kid-proofed the house. I probably should have. I don't guess my house is too crazy dangerous, but I never really worried about kid-proofing the house. I just told the kids what they could and couldn't touch and, dealt with it. Oh, David Lister wants me to discuss black soldier flies real quick. Where do you purchase yours, and do you need to replenish every year? I don't purchase them. They just move in. It just naturally occurs. They just come in and, well, Andy Rabbit's saying she buys them from Amazon. And there's a couple of suggestions. There's lots of people telling you where to get them from. But they just are natural. They just naturally appear. They just come in, move in under my hutches every year, and take care of all my composting needs, when it comes to that. So I can't really help you out too much with that. But Andy Rabbit says she buys them from Amazon. Old Colony Garden says I got mine from Fluckers. And Best of My American Breast Homestead says you need a live show like Steve Harvey. A live show like Steve Harvey? I don't know what Steve Harvey does exactly on the live show. I may have to look that up and find out. I don't know what does that mean exactly. I'll have to look it up and see. Let's see. Andy Rabbit says I'm too impatient to wait for them now that I can buy them. Well, I get it. But, it's pretty nice when they move in. I always rejoice when I see the first black soldier fly, out there flying around. I'm like, all right, it's not going to be long now. And they do such a good job. They just compost down my manure piles like crazy. And anything I throw under there, birds, whatever, if I have one that dies, they're just take care of it. It's gone in like a day. They're the best thing in the world. They're so great. And they keep the flies down. I don't have fly problems. They're fantastic. If I didn't have them naturally, I probably would buy some. We're still going. I haven't had a comment or a chat come through in a bit. I want to make sure that we're still live. It looks like we are. There's one. Andy Rabbit says, my cages are in the shed, so I want them under the cages in there as soon as I can get them. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, mine being outside, it's not that big of a deal for me to wait for just a little while. There's a ton. Once they move in, though, there's a ton of them out there. I should probably start, boxing them up and selling them myself, I guess. Old Colony Garden says, do you have the larva under the rabbits? I haven't actually checked. I think so, though, because those manure piles aren't building up either. So I think they probably are under there. I just haven't really looked to see. I haven't really paid that much attention under them. I'm used to moving in under the quail hutches. But they have populated under the rabbit hutches before too, under the rabbit cages before too. So I'm guessing they're probably there. I gotta look. Andy Rabbit says I don't put any outside under the cages. Yeah, why not? If you've got them in there and you've got a lot of them, why not just scoop some of them and put them under the cages outside and see how they do? Mine, like I said, mine are all outside. So, I don't buy them. They just show up. Wishful Dreamer says, where do you use your compost? Do you have more than you need? No, I use it I use it in the garden. Of course, in this year I didn't do a garden, but I use it in the garden and, my wife's potted plants, her flower beds. She has flower beds up front where she grows native plants, and they're just packed with, it's like a jungle through those flower beds. But we do throw a lot of the compost on there if we have any extra left over from throwing it on the garden. Doina says, don't they get eaten by wild birds? Not mine. the bird, I hardly ever see wild birds under the hutches. Sometimes in the fall and the winter, when the starlings start coming around more, and the food gets a little bit more scarce, they'll go under the hutches, mostly just trying to pick up the scraps from the quail feed that falls through. But I've never seen them go after the black soldier flies. Andy Rabbit says it's funny. The last 2 years I have bought some. I don't see any outside until right after I order or get them in. Yeah, as soon as you get them in, they start appearing naturally, huh? And he says I don't have a problem with the wild birds eating them. I don't either. They stay hidden under the top layer of poop. Yeah, they do a pretty good job of that. I mean, you can see it kind of moving around a little bit, but they don't. They're not usually out in the open where birds would get to them. In fact, I don't really have a lot of birds around my hutches at all. I mean, occasionally there's one or two, and squirrels get underneath there and try to pick up the. Um, oh, sorry, I got distracted. Squirrels go under there to, like I said, they're drawn to the quail feed that spills. Okay, so Best of American Breast Homestead says Steve Harvey. He sent a mic around the crowd. Then people asked questions. Yeah, I've thought about setting up something where you could actually jump on and talk. I mean, there's a little bit of cost for that, not terribly expensive, but I don't know how many people would actually do it, so I just haven't done that. I've just gone with reading your chats and responding to them. Jeff Arms says, hey, Chris, I love your channel and really appreciate how you express your knowledge and style. Well, thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. Desert Homestead says, how do BSF do in the heat? Dry heat, I buy 11 pounds bag of dried larvae to give to the chickens as a treat, and it adds protein. Do they turn to beetles, pupa like mealworms? Well, they turn into flies, to black soldier flies is what they turn into. But as far as how they do in the heat, I don't know. A dry heat, it does seem like they need some moisture in order to produce, and I mean that's kind of their preferred habitat. I mean, I don't know how expensive they are. It may be worth buying some live ones, throwing them under your, in your manure piles, see how they do. I don't know how they would do in an extremely dry environment. I really don't know. They do fine in the heat, but I don't know about the dry environment. Wyatt says, you started my quail journey. Well, hopefully that's a good thing. And I'm glad you got the information you needed, though. Let's see. The Best of My American Breast Homestead says, you're doing a great job. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Jeff Arms says, I have a rural quarter acre in King County, Washington, and I have been applying your technique in my garden for years. Well, awesome. Hopefully it's going well. It's always done well for me. Andy Rabbit says, if they have moist food, it should be enough moisture for them. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. But I don't know. I mean, it depends on how dry it is there. How dry are your manure piles? And I don't know, honestly. We got about 7 minutes left here, so we got time for several more chats if you guys have anything you want to talk about. Andy Rabbit says if they had 100% dry, they would have nothing to eat, I would think. Yeah, I kind of think you're probably right about that. If it was, incredibly dry, then they probably wouldn't survive really well. But I don't know how dry the dry environment you're talking about is. And I'm guessing you say the Desert Homestead that it's pretty dry, but I don't know. What do black soldier fly larvae cost anyway? Let's see what we got here. Looks like Walmart's got something with free shipping, 1,000 count for $26. I don't know if those are live though. Let me see real quick. 150 of them for $14 through Walmart. Shipping, of course, not at the store. They're pretty cheap, actually. So, yeah, I mean, buy some and try them out and see how they do. Jeff Arms says, thanks for pronouncing my name right, too. I used cardboard from my butcher shop. They always have a bunch. And I used hog fuel for mulch. It's cheap and breaks down slower than wood chips. Really, I'd have to try that. I've never heard of that before. Hog fuel, huh? I don't know what that is. Let me see if I can look that up. Okay. I don't know where you can buy it around here. You know, I've used wood chips before. I love them, but they do break down pretty quick, and I don't have a good enough source where I can get that many of them. You know, it becomes a difficult thing to do that way. The other thing, I mean, I've used straw before, but the same kind of thing. It breaks down very fast. I ended up just going with that heavy-duty landscape fabric as my mulch layer, and it's done a pretty good job. All right, Best of My American Breast Homestead says the more rotten, the better, or the food, the better for soldier flies. Yeah, I think you're probably right. Jeff Arms says hog fuel? Anyway, is rough mulch. It's used on muddy roads. Yeah, I looked it up. I wasn't familiar with it, but it looks familiar. I mean, yeah, I've seen it. I think I could probably buy it. I mean, it looks like cypress mulch or something kind of similar, but I think I could probably buy that stuff locally, but it might be pretty expensive. I don't know. I mean, in the long run, I've got a fairly good sized garden to try to put that over all of it. Andy Rabbit says, I put the heavy weed barrier down for the flooring in the quail house. Yeah, I never thought about using it for that. Hopefully it's working. 3 minutes left. Andy Rabbit says, swear one day I'll get it done. Yeah, that's me too. I swear one day I'll get things done. I do have to move. You guys may have seen beside my shed out there, I've got some sheet metal and some wood kind of piled up right there. It's kind of where I store it for whenever I need it. Well, the dog has figured out he can jump on that sheet metal and then jump over the fence pretty easily. So I'm going to have to move that or fence it off or something. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that yet. It hasn't been a huge problem. He only does it when I'm like out there, and he doesn't go anywhere. He just runs, but he can't get back into the fence without me letting him back in. So far, he hasn't done it like when we're not here or anything, so I don't have that big issue with it. But it may happen. I mean, especially if there's something out there he wants to go get, it may happen. So I need to get it fixed. I'll probably have to do that this weekend. Andy Rabbit says, I only have 2 days a week to do everything now. Not much seems to be getting done anymore. I know that feeling. Gun Clinging Palin says, got here late. Redneck, how's your baby bunnies doing? They're doing good. Thanks for joining us, by the way. Appreciate that. You are late. We only got 2 minutes left, but that's okay. But the baby bunnies are doing fine. No issues with them. They're all grown out a little bit on the slow side. They're still pretty small, but they're all doing great. Desert Homestead says, my quail waste so much water, and under the hutch is moist. It attracts lots of flies. On average day in Phoenix, it's 7 to 15% humidity. We'll try in the fall and give them time to settle in before summer. Yeah, it might work. I mean, heck, probably work right now. I don't see why not. I think they'd handle the heat just fine, but if it's always damp underneath there, they'd probably do just great, and they keep your flies down. Andy Rabbit says, I think I'll be getting the old brooder cages out again for these eggs when they hatch. Good luck on your hatch. I hope it goes well. All right, guys, it's about time to wrap this one up for tonight. So should be back next week. Don't see any reason why I won't be. Thank you guys for joining. I appreciate that. And where are we at here? One more thing. One more chat here we can handle. Desert Homestead says, if I order in a summer, they may die in the mail truck. Well, they might. That's a good point. Made it to 8, Chris. Yeah, I usually do make it to 8, so I think we're good. So, all right, it is time, though. I'm going to wrap it up. We'll see you guys next week, hopefully, unless something happens between now and then, but we should be back next week. And we'll see you guys then. As always, God bless.